So I received a comment by one of my big time supporters for this channel, a friend of mine by the name of Hannah, and you guys may recognize or remember. She's asked quite a few questions on several of my videos. She sent me messages saying, hey, you should talk about this, you shouldn't talk about that, hey, this is good, this is bad. Very active on the channel, and she has sent me a list of questions here that she wants answered when it comes to Mythic Plus. And I think that the questions that she raises are not only really cool questions. I mean, I think they're most relevant with BFA coming up. But I know if she's wondering them, and it's something that I've thought of, that other people are probably thinking the same thing. So what I want to do is read her comment, and then I'm going to answer her questions kind of in order. So she says this topic, and this topic being talking about leaders fostering a sense of responsibility in their people. She says this topic is pretty cool. My break has been much needed, and I'm starting to think now about Battle for Azeroth. A lot of people I know, including people from the guild that I was in, are wanting to focus on Mythic Plus, creating a dedicated Mythic Plus team within the guild to push for higher keys. On that note, what are your thoughts on Mythic Plus system being used as an alternate path for progression? Do you agree that Mythic Plus should reward gear that is as good as Mythic rating? What are your thoughts on Mythic Plus being turned into a competitive esport, with ratings starting to feel more stale and left behind? The removal of tier sets is, I think, another nail in the coffin for serious organized rating. I will always be a raider at heart, and I have a love and hate relationship for Mythic Plus. I love that it's in the game, but I think Mythic rating should reward the best gear in the game. Just my 2 cents. Then she goes on to accost me for not posting videos on the channel as quickly as I really should, and she's totally right about that. So, to Hannah, I'll say this. Not only am I eternally grateful for your activity on the channel, both, very publicly, and obviously you and I have chatted a lot in private, and I love it. Some of the ideas that you come up with, I've thoroughly enjoyed. I'm glad that your break helped. And I would say to anyone out there that's listening to this, that's watching this, if you are burnt out, if you're just feeling blah about World of Warcraft or any game, take a break. It's okay. Maybe you come back invigorated, this second win, this you're ready to tackle things, or maybe you don't, and that's cool. Both are perfectly fine. So as far as Mythic Plus goes, I will say that it is probably, at least in my opinion, one of the best additions to the game in a very long time. It's kept dungeons relevant for the whole expansion, something that Blizzard has said every expansion. We're going to make dungeons relevant. We're going to make dungeons relevant. No, they really didn't. They really failed, because what they really did, their design philosophy was, we'll put out new dungeons every once in a while with better loot, which of course means, if I'm going to run dungeons A, B, and C that give this loot, or dungeons X, Y, and Z that give far superior loot, and it's really not a question of what you should be doing. So they've really kept dungeons relevant for the entirety of this expansion, which is really cool. It's continued to be a constant source of challenge, a constant source of gear, a constant source of content for players. And I think that's amazing. It's something that over time has really grown on me. I really enjoy doing Mythic Plus. So the idea of a dedicated, maybe 5 to 6, maybe 7 person team, because let's be honest, sometimes people can't log in, or, whatever. Even if you drop down and say, dedicated 5 people that will, on whatever, these 2 days will run Mythic Plus, is really appealing. Especially when you talk about the burdens of life, making it so difficult for people to put a lot of time into rating. I'm a perfect example. As Hannah rightfully so fussed at me, where are the videos? Well, life gets in the way, right? That burden of life just pulling you down, where you have to make choices and sacrifices and cutbacks. And for some people, that might be rating, where you can't dedicate, 6, 8, 10, 12 hours to rating every week, along with the preparation that goes into that, right? Like, it's not just you log in for the raid, you log out. It's you log in for the raid, you log out when you're done. Oh, plus your Mythic Plus. Also farming for legendaries, heroic dungeons, world quests, flasks and potions and enchants and all this stuff. And to take away this scheduling aspect, or to make it a lot smaller, very appealing, very much so. So with all my initial support here for Mythic Plus, let's answer some of the questions that Hannah has asked. The first one being, what do I think about Mythic Plus being used as an alternative path for progression? I think it makes sense. Blizzard has said many times that they want to offer several avenues to progress, and that don't include rating. Like, they want people to be able to progress outside of rating as equally-ish, and we'll get to that, as raiders. Now, I'm a raider. It's something that I've done for a very long time, right? It's like since Burning Crusade, middle of Vanilla WoW. I obviously had to take a break with deployment and whatnot, but I'm a raider. It's something I've done for a long time. And it's obviously the backbone of World of Warcraft. Whether it's stale or not, it's the backbone of WoW. That's what the developers put obviously the most amount of time into, the most amount of resources into is raiding. I've said many times before, publicly on this channel, in my guild, that if I weren't raiding in the guild that I currently run, I probably wouldn't be playing the game. It's obvious that the route Blizzard wants is most of its players to funnel into in order to progress, and that raiding. But with all the love I have for raiding, there are so many problems with it, right? You are very much, as I have said several times on this channel, hampered by your roster. You can't find people. You can't hold that 20-man roster. You're not doing mythic content. You might not even be able to do heroic content. You might not even be able to raid if you can't find a stable roster. And we've talked about people jumping ship and, just the drama, etc. And that is one of the biggest examples and biggest frustrations just from this expansion alone. I think, especially as you, Hannah, noted, with the drop in tier gear, in the lack of it in BFA, that Mythic Plus is going to be more appealing. And I think it's a great alternative path as a player to progress your character. The idea, again, of only having to worry about 4 other people is far more appealing, especially for somebody like me who's, as a guild leader and a raid leader, I have to worry about 19 other people, or really, 25 to 30 people, alternates, and, people who can and can't log in and all that. So only having to worry about 4 people, that's appealing. Your second question, what do I think about Mythic Plus being turned into a competitive esport with the ratings starting to feel stale and left behind? I think that the excitement and the amount of people that viewed the Mythic Plus invitationals, the competitions, it really was an eye-opener, I think, for Blizzard, that people want to see this. It's fun. It's exciting. If you understand what's going on, or you have a really good, sportscaster, someone that really can explain very quickly and, very excitedly what's going on, it's really cool. It's something that current players can do, right? Like, it's something that you can watch the streams and you can get an idea of here's how it should be ran, or here's some tricks. And there were a lot of these that you guys saw in the forums where people were going, I didn't realize you could do that, or, oh, you could skip there, or, ooh, that's a really cool idea that the Warlock did, or this, whatever. That's cool. And people can then turn around and do it for themselves. And so I'm all for this being turned into an esport. Now, is rating stale? And this really isn't a question. It was more of my comment. Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of long-term players have seen it all, right? Like, we've been there, we've done that. And when you have roster problems, especially in Legion, over and over again, it's an uphill battle. It really wears you down. And I've talked about it many times on this channel. It is exhausting to log in and just not have people. And you want to get there, and you have people that go, and I've seen this in my guild. I've had people, raiders of mine, that are guilty of this, where they've gone, well, I'm not going to raid until you guys get into Mythic. So let me know when you're in Mythic, and I'll just, I'll log back on when you guys are going to do Mythic. Well, you're part of the problem, right? Like, we've talked about this before. But it really wears people down. And then you look at new players that feel like there's this huge barrier to entry. I have to level to 110. I have to get geared. Mythic Plus, what's that? Rating, what's that? All this artifact power, all these legendaries. And that even hurts some of the older long-term players where, all this artifact farming, all these legendaries, especially during the beginning of Legion, really hurt people's, I don't even know what to say, like, their thought process when it comes to raiding. Thinking of doing that farm for 2 years really, I think, caused a lot of players to stop even thinking about raiding or leveling up or playing seriously before they ever got going. And I think that really hurt. I think that really did. Now, the big question that you have, Hannah, do I think that Mythic Plus should reward gear that is on par with gear that drops from Mythic rating? Maybe. Maybe is my answer. So, for reference, just so we're all on the same page here, you do a plus 15 on your character. You get at the end of the week an item level 960 item from your cache. Might be good, might be total shit. Now, here's the kicker. You're also getting, 940 gear from the end boss, possibly. 2 or 3 items drop, whatever. You get a 960 piece of gear in your cache every Tuesday. Wednesday if you're on, the EU servers. You kill Mythic Argus. You have a chance of getting an item level 970 item. So there's a 10 item level difference between the two. We're not going to put Warforged, Titan Forge, Legion Forge, BFA Forge. We're not putting any of that in here. We're not going to let those be factors. There is a 10 item level difference between the two. Now, before I answer the question in earnest, I want to point out a few things. A few issues. One is that Blizzard has made... let me try that again. One is that Blizzard has made it clear that while they want progression to come from many different places, the best gear will come from raiding, specifically Mythic raids. This holds true for Battle for Azeroth. They've said this, where the bonuses from your Azerite armor are going to be better when you're wearing the Mythic version rather than the Heroic, rather than the Normal, rather than the LFR, which, Hannah, I know you hate. They feel that the difficulty involved in running and planning and coordinating a guild and a raid should be rewarded with the best gear in the game. The other problem I see is that you kill a boss, you have a chance at an item. There's no guarantee. You do a plus 15, on Tuesday you are guaranteed something from your weekly cache at the end of the week. Now, admittedly, and to be fair, if you're clearing Mythic and Taurus, you have 11 chances at gear as opposed to the 1 guaranteed item. So maybe that point is moot. I don't know. Maybe it's a moot point. I don't know. Okay. Now, with Master Loot maybe going away, and I don't know, have we seen any confirmation if this is a yes or no? If the change were made and Mythic gear was available from your cache each week, you have to do a plus 15, a plus 20, whatever, whatever the number is. Would guilds force characters to push for that magical number, whatever the lowest number required is, in order to raid? You're not, Hannah, you will not be able to join my raid unless you loot from your cache a plus 15 item, because I know it gives you Mythic gear, even if we're doing Heroic difficulty. I don't know. Is that a possibility? That is for a long time been a rule in our guild, is that if you don't do a Mythic Plus of a certain difficulty, that you wouldn't be prioritized for loot. Now, granted, for us, it was an incentive or a punishment, either way you want to look at it, for people that simply logged on only to collect gear and clearly weren't putting out as much effort when it came to artifact power, farming, stuff like that, as other people in the guild. And some people felt gypped, and that's a discussion for a totally different day, and actually, there's a couple of videos on it. So, after all of my issues with it and some of my questions, what do I really think? I think I'm all for making them the same. I think that for the top 1% of guilds, you look at your methods and, all these other, the world first racers. That gear is going to make a difference, right? Let's be honest. Somebody like Sko is going to tell you, Hannah, you need to do a plus 20 every single week to get that Mythic stuff, or you're not coming to the raid. and you're going to be fine doing it. Let's be honest, you'll be fine doing it. It's going to make a difference. It's an extra source of gear. If you look at my guild, and I would say that it's a fairly average representation of what guilds are, right? Like, we've done a couple of mythic bosses. We clear heroic. We're kind of struggling in the roster department. The gear never really has been a problem. Maybe in the beginning, sure, where people really need it, but right now it's not really a problem. It hasn't been for quite a long time. It's the other things that we've talked about. Shooting for that 20-man roster for Mythic, not being able to field it because nobody on the server. Having people not log in. Things like that. Those are the issues that we are battling. That's the problems that we're struggling with. The gear is not going to make a difference in the long run. I am all for making them the same. We just got to figure out what number, what plus makes sense. Plus 15, plus 20. Does it go up over time and get reset when a new raid comes out? I don't know. What I would really like is for you guys to let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Do you agree with Hannah and I? Do you disagree? Do you want to tweak it? Do you think that maybe this Mythic Plus, that over time that magical number that you need to reach raises and it gets reset when a new raid comes out? I don't know. Let me know in the comment section below. And until next time, guys, I'll see ya.